don't really matter. You're gonna find out for yourself. No, it don't really matter. Gonna leave this thing to somebody else. If they were missionaries, real-time visionaries, sitting in a Chinese stew to view my disinfatuation, I know that I'm a classic case. Watch my disenchanted face. Blame it on the fallen gong. They've seen the end and you can't hold on now, because it would take a lot more hate than you to end the fascination, even with an iron fist. More than you got to rule the nation when all I've got is precious time. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, coming at you straight out of the bowels of our underground lair, watching this whole planet go down the tubes real dang fast.
Oh, everything's terrible. That was a longer than normal rendition of something.
Hard to know where to break that one off. It was all so good. I could have just...
Where's the chorus? What's the chorus to that?
The chorus to the song would be, it don't really matter. Well, that's what they say this is. I don't think that's the chorus. I think that's a verse, personally.
It don't really matter.
No. I think it's the, I don't know if there's really a traditional chorus to this song.
It sounds like a heavy metal song, I know.
Yeah? Well, you might. You might know it. You're in the ballpark, genre-wise.
I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
I gave you a hint. I'm feeling generous today.
Oh, thanks. Well, that's a quarter of a point then if I get the genre right.
No.
I don't. What's heavy metal?
It's not an
who
Engelbert Humperdinck song with lyrics like that.
You got that one band, and then that one guy. What band was Tommy Lee in?
Motley Crue.
Motley Crue. Is it Motley Crue?
No.
Okay. Am I sniffing the right tree though? Don't answer that. I don't
guess so.
Well, what is it? Poison. I don't know who it is.
Poison, no.
Is that a song?
If it was a Poison song, it would be like,
That's
hey,
Alice
we're
Cooper,
having
right?
a good time. Let's. Yeah, Alice Cooper. That's a better Poison than the band Poison. Yeah.
Well, any guy named Alice, you got,
Well.
At least he only weighs $1.14 1/4. I couldn't. Some heavy metal band. There. How's that?
That it is Chinese Democracy from Guns N' Roses.
Oh, how did I not guess them?
I don't know.
They're even more popular than that one band that you said. They got that Axl guy, right?
Yeah. Well, this is off of the album without like the original band. So a lot of people kind of panned the album. They didn't like it, or maybe they didn't give it a chance.
So that is that before or after they were big?
After. It came out. Remember, like forever, it's like, oh, when's GNR going to come out with an album? Axl's just sitting on it. He's not good. And then they finally came out with an album. It was 2010 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
I wonder if it. Yeah, and they haven't put out another album since, but they're touring a ton with the original band.
They always get back together. They piss and moan. They
2008 it was
2008.
released.
I mean, they all complain and they all just get back together. I mean, what it's like the end of it's like every band is the end of Casablanca. All be together again. You know?
Well, and this
what
is the
band
thing about,
doesn't get back together and tour when they're 71?
Yeah.
Look at Keith Richards. He's been 80 for 40 years and still tours. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. I mean, it's just.
Well, it's funny, learning guitar. The strings on a 6-string guitar, E, A, D, G, B, E, right? And so you got to figure out an acronym to try and learn this. Well, we would, I was taught to remember this in terms of Van Halen. Eddie and Dave got big egos. And that really sets it. Now, Eddie Van Halen gone, bless his soul. Hopefully he's in a better place.
Let's hope.
But, that's kind of the way music goes. You get creative personalities together, and we work it out.
Yeah. You want to know the best acronym I ever heard?
What?
I was in the Cub Scouts, and we were learning how to jump a car or put a battery charger on.
Mm-hmm.
My Cub Scout leader, the friend of mine's dad, goes, okay, here's how you remember which side's black and which side's red. Just remember, the cables are racist. Black is always negative.
Wow.
And that was how we learned. I say that to I jumped my wife's car when we lost her battery not that long ago, and I still say it to myself. Give me them racist cables. I know which way they go.
Wow.
So it's not an acronym, but it's one of those
Well,
things.
I guess as long as you're identifying them as racist cables, that's okay. As long as you're not saying, no, this is the way it goes. Yeah. Hey, Cooter, get over here.
No, I got more than 4 teeth. I don't do that. But I mean, that's amazing what you remember. Those
Let
little.
me teach you a laugh story.
How about the one guy on Saved by the Bell passed away recently.
I saw that.
Remember how you learned the planets? Movenschnup. He said that in an episode. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Movenschnup.
Never heard of it.
I've heard of him. Movenschnup. So
Okay.
that was the acronym to learn the planets.
Stupid acronym.
Yeah. Speaking of deaths, Jay, we have to bring up a passing the other day of Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah.
Who I was surprised at his death. I don't know why. He's been sick for a while, but he kind of worked through it.
Yeah.
And I think he was on the air just 2 weeks ago.
And just being a private person, I mean, I don't think anyone really knew how sick he was.
He shared something before Christmas about how the cancer had gone the wrong way.
Right.
But you don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Does that mean you got 6 months, a year? I mean, I assumed he had the best medical, that he could get. Yeah. So I honestly was, I was actually shocked at hearing that he passed away. But, it's funny. I think younger people, I don't even know if they listen to the radio anymore. Do youngins listen to the radio at all?
Good question.
Yeah, probably not. But I think people don't realize how dead AM radio was in like the late 70s and that. I mean, AM radio, I think sports is the only thing that probably kept it profitable for a long, long time. I mean, FM came along. It was way better quality and all that. And, Rush Limbaugh did so much to just save AM programming. And I don't know if there's anybody that's had more people try to imitate. I mean, Walt Disney once said he could innovate faster than his competition could imitate. And I'll tell you what, I don't know that anybody has had. There's so many podcasts, radio shows on any side of the aisle that I swear to God use his format, completely rip him off. He's like, and maybe it's the thing of like a great radio person or something to come up with your own sayings or your own, but was there anybody before him that really did all that? I mean, I'm sure there were back a long, long time ago. There was sign-offs and stuff. Walter Cronkite had his.
Right.
But I mean, I can't think of anybody who's like revived or done an industry. Not only was he imitated, he was also never surpassed.
No.
The entire time in 40 years or whatever he did.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a shock because I can tell you that I learned a lot from him. Obviously I didn't agree with every word he said, but when you're on the radio, and you and I can attest to this, when you're talking all the time, you're going to make a mistake or two, and that shouldn't be hung around your neck forever. It was not fun to get on social media and see some of the assholes, what they had to say or stuff about him. It was really disgusting.
I wasn't even there. You all you had to do was turn on CNN or MSNBC.
No, I never do that.
Brian Stelter. Well,
Alka-Seltzer, Chrome Dome. Yeah, I mean, he's just I don't know how that piece of garbage. Yeah. I don't know how he gets paid to do anything. There's just he offers nothing. But I just how many people he had an effect on a lot of people, and me included.
Yeah.
And I used to be a 24/7 member. I used to watch all the TV clips.
Yeah.
And it was.
Well, I remember when he had the TV show that was on network television. Yeah. And that kind of led him into being involved in the NFL. And then that was kind of the beginning of cancel culture with him getting drummed out of the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, it was. And remember, he tried to be an owner.
Yes.
He tried to, the Rams, he's from Missouri, and
Right.
He was part of a syndicate before they moved back to L.A. that was considering purchasing them, and there was a whole hubbub about, not letting him in, I guess, to buy a team. I mean, just, there's only so many people who have the money to buy a football team. I
Right.
mean, if you're going to blackball them all the dumb things Jerry Jones has said, then you can, or Dan Snyder, nobody cares if they own a team.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm, just 70 years old. The older I get, the older I think old is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's younger than my parents. So, I mean, I don't know. It was a shocking thing. And, it just kind of feels like we've lost a giant when somebody becomes part of American, what do you want to call it, culture or whatever you want to call it. It's just sort of like, and then they end up passing away. It's just kind of, there's a big, I don't know, just a big sense of loss around that. And it's a sad thing that, I mean, he'll never do another radio show again. It's just I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that cancer can eat away at anybody.
Yep. There's nobody immune from that. Even things are getting better medically, and maybe someday we'll eradicate it, but
I don't think so. I don't think cancer will ever be cured completely, because even if it's all, even today, everything's all on when you catch it, and even if you catch it early, there's no guarantee of anything. So
right.
I think I knew when I heard he was in fourth stage that it was a matter of time, but the time went just way too quickly. So just I don't know, just a sad thing that I really don't get to listen to much anymore. I don't, there was a time I could sit and listen to a 3-hour show.
Yeah.
There's a time in my life that I had 3 hours, and I guess that's kind of passed. Mm-hmm. But he was one of the first people into podcasting. I don't know if people know this, but he was one of the first people to put his show on a podcast.
Now, it was behind a paywall, but
it was, especially at that time, because it was very, very new, and you had to sign up for something. But as it became more popular and the barriers were knocked down, it became obviously a lot easier thing for more and more people to do, which is great. I mean, it's great. I mean, I think talk radio is fun. I think what we do is not only entertaining and educational, but it's so great that anybody can do it now.
Yeah.
And you don't have to get into some monopoly to be able to do that. But,
right.
But anyway, and he just turned 70. His birthday was right after mine, so it was, I don't know, just not a fun day yesterday, and it was a good day to stay off social media.
Yeah.
Although I did have to go on social media for the next thing I want to bring up. So God bless you, Rush.
Yes.
Are we returning to school or are we not? Once again, as the Tim Walz world turns, this got to be a soap opera or a documentary or a movie or a movie of the week. Although you're going to have to make it a lot more exciting to be
right.
a movie of the week.
Well, I think the answer is it depends. I know in Robbinsdale District, they're back in school up through elementary school, but everybody else probably won't go back this year, although they keep saying they think they will.
Okay, let me just stop you right there.
Yeah.
Why does the governor have the power to close schools, but he claims no power to open them?
I know.
I mean, it is idiotic on its face. I mean, he's basically saying, well, I mean, in fact, I'm going to quote something. This is from Theo Keith of Channel 9, from his Twitter page. He was at the press conference. Walz was asked why he is setting a date for March 8th to go back when he would 5 days earlier said he wouldn't set a date. Typical Tim Walz.
Right.
Quote, I don't think anything's necessarily changed. I'm hearing loud and clear. Give us some longer-term guidance on this, huh? So let me translate that. It's not about science. It's about political pressure.
Yes.
He knows the parents are pissed. The legislature's pissed. In fact, the Senate, right after this, voted 40-37 to strip him of any power to open or close schools.
Yes.
40-27, I should say. Asked about proms and graduations. This is again from Theo Keith's Twitter feed. Walls non-committal. Wow, a shock. Here is the biggest thing, though. The governor says he will not force districts to reopen if administrators don't want to. It's not about teeth. It's about a partnership, he says. If the teachers' unions in big districts don't want to come back, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Well, can I say nobody gave me a choice to go back to work?
No.
Why is it that I couldn't say, hey, I'm not coming back to work till you spray every inch of the building 49 times or whatever the stupid teachers union wants. I mean, I say you're breaching your contract right now.
Yeah.
So you go back March 8th. This is a calendar year that some students have not been in the classroom.
Yeah.
Well, you're fired.
Right.
We all know, Tim Walz, your head is so far up their ass that's why you're not doing it. Sorry. We all know that's the truth. Follow the money. So, I mean, it's funny, too. Nobody in the media has the guts to sort of say that, although they all hint at it. Statement from Education Minnesota giving a, quote, tepid response to the governor telling all schools to open by March 8th. Meeting the needs of everyone won't be easy, and the solutions will look different everywhere, says that beauty, Miss Denise Specht, who blocked me on Twitter. Nice haircut,
What did
by
you
the
do
way.
now?
I don't know what I did. I guess she just can't take any difference of opinion. So, I mean, again, they're basically, I interpret that as they're refusing. I mean, that's...
Yeah, well.
Paul Gazelka almost sounded decisive. They cannot and should not have the power to not be in front of the kids when we know it's absolutely essential. But I mean, I am struck by how now Fox 9 has an article setting up a battle between the governor and the teachers union. Come on, like there's going to be a battle. So I mean, again, I go back to what we've talked about with these districts, that people look at their other options and stay there.
Yeah.
I mean, here's an idea. Why don't you call up Iowa and see what they're doing? Why don't you call up Wisconsin and see what they're doing? Call up Governor DeSantis. See what he's doing. They've been in school since last September.
Yeah.
So, why is it so hard?
Here's a better idea. Just keep doing what you're doing, and some of us will eventually figure out how to go around your school systems.
But have they finally overplayed their hand?
Oh, of course. I believe
But I mean,
so.
are there going to be any long-term consequences to this?
I guess time will tell. I hope so. Like I say, I hope there are some, creatives out there that are going to come up with some ways to get around our current school system and set up a school choice in a way where it's going to be accessible to everybody.
I have heard that there already are schools, and I can't confirm this, there are already schools considering canceling graduation ceremonies, canceling
You're
the proms.
kidding me.
Yes. I mean, they're 4 months away, but they're already considering doing it. Are we vaccinating people? Is that did I forget that?
I don't know if we are in this state. We were, 41st?
Mike Osterholm in charge of the public schools? That idiot. He couldn't be right if he tried to be. He couldn't be right if he said the sky was blue. I don't know. I'm struck by the governor's blatant hypocrisy. Every time he speaks, we have to listen to the BS story. I used to be a teacher, zippity doo dah. I know how important it is. Well, if you know that there, Mr. Know-It-All, why is it that you don't do something?
Because those who can't teach and those who can't teach going to government.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they'll pay you.
Oh, boy.
Well, I don't know. I mean, my guess is March 8th, nothing changes.
Probably
That's my guess.
Not unless there's such pressure that he backs down. I mean, that's really...
What can he do?
That's the only way to get anything done is to pressure Walz to the point where he backs down.
But what's he going to do? I mean, he's clearly not going to put any teeth behind anything. I mean, he's clearly not going to.
I mean, if it comes
he
to...
can shift blame
Yeah.
to somebody else. But again, you're violating your contract. You should be fired.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, if it comes down to the parents or the teachers union, he'll side with the teachers union.
every time.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Well, Jay, the mood's not going to get much brighter. Because we talked about, the shenanigans going on at the World
Economic Forum.
which was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And now we owe it before our 200th episode. Remember, 199. This is 199, right?
Yes.
So maybe at the
Yeah.
end we'll spill the beans a little more about our 200th.
Yeah?
Or should we leave people in suspense, or is this going to be like a cliffhanger at the end of Brady Bunch or something like that? I mean, what are we going to do?
I don't know.
Well,
I think we gotta give him a little bit of.
all right, we'll do that at the end then.
Yeah.
But let me just say this. Don't think that this World Economic Forum is something in a far-off place that a bunch of rich idiots get together and talk about plotting the world and it'll never happen. And you're a whack job if you believe that and blah, 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 blah. I mean, don't get caught up in that.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to call you a nut job, let them. That's what people say when they have no argument to make. Okay? Mm-hmm. And the greatest fear that I have and continue to have is the infiltration of this stuff in business and government getting together. That's always my greatest fear, because when business and government get together, Jay, we the people are always the loser. Always
right.
the loser. We're the guaranteed loser.
Well, and this is why, because business doesn't get together with government to try and figure out what's best for the people.
No, they don't do that. They don't do that to better the Constitution.
They try to figure out what's better for them, and by them, I don't even mean the other players in their field. It's like during the Great Depression when you had like all the auto companies getting together. There were some good auto companies that got shut out and they were no longer in business because they were not a part of making the regulations.
Yeah, well, they weren't part of the banks. The same thing happens there.
Absolutely.
It happens every day. How many small banks have been swallowed up by the FDIC? Which is a part of this as well. But the ultimate fear, and I say this with alarm and with some hope, because it's never too late, I don't think, to start fighting or stop bleeding or something like that, is the continued attacks on suburban and rural communities.
Yes.
I mean, it is obvious. It's all over this world economic stuff. It's all over these corporate feel-good environmental initiatives. Okay?
Right.
It's all over. I mean, you name it. And it all has the same end game, which is to get us all off fossil fuels, get us all, and again, if that happens through the marketplace, that's one thing.
Right.
Okay, but we all know that that's not what's going on. Okay? Getting us all off on all out of our cars, all into mass transit, all into high density living, all into community, almost collectivization. I mean, if you want to call it that, I mean, if you want to, these people have no problems borrowing from Stalin or anybody else. They're probably heroes to them. And where a small group of people, kind of like a Politburo, control everything. Where small businesses are gone, small farms are gone, everything is run by oligopolies and big banks, where there's no borders, and everything is a cookie cutter of another. I mean, where you go, it's the same racial makeup. It's the same sexual orientation makeup. It's the same, same number of trees on 3rd Avenue. It's the same sidewalks everywhere.
Same 5 franchises.
Yeah. Because they're the ones who play ball with the government.
Right.
Okay, so this is, and that's, look, I know how that sounds. I even know how that sounds when I say it. Okay? It sounds like, come on, you really, but you got to think here. Jake, let's think back to the old Wild West. And you had what we call boom towns that became ghost towns. Now, why did that happen? It happened because their economic source, whether that was gold or whatever, some other kind of mineral, dried up and everybody got up and left. Everybody went to the next boom town. And whether that was Tombstone or whether that was, name your town out there, Dodge City, I don't know. Ultimately, you one became a boom town, the next one became a ghost town, and so on and so forth. Rural areas are already under attack everywhere. And we are looking. You just think about it. Think about a place that is a town that has like one, major business or something. Or one, we see it with mining areas up in northern Minnesota because of environmental stuff like that, that are or it's tapped out, whatever. And that's what we're looking at throughout this nation. We're looking at government legislating them out of existence.
Right.
And we all know how they do that. We'll get into a little detail here. But one way to do it, okay, is environmentalism. And that has a lot of components to it. Because the government, and it doesn't matter what level of government, because your local government could do this too, through their comprehensive plans, through their codes, you could have states, you can have federal government come in, declare an endangered species somewhere, the perch in Lake blah, 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 or an endangered species. We can't allow anybody to build here. Can't allow anybody to fish here. We can't allow and of course that can dry up industry.
Yes.
You got a small town that relies on, look what's happened to Lake Mille Lacs. It has government has come in, and they are hurting the entire. There are cabins and restaurants and hotels, and there's liquor stores. They're dependent on the fishing industry.
Yes.
Which is so big here in Minnesota. And so many of them are struggling in that area because the government's come in and said, well, there aren't enough of this kind of fish in this lake. And there aren't enough of, there's milfoil in the corner, in the northwest corner.
Right.
And whatever. It sounds crazy. But on a larger scale, that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at any way to slowly cut, paper cut, nickel and dime, and all to get us out of these areas and into their controlled urban centers.
Well, and that's one way. Another way that they do it is by legislating building codes.
Yeah.
And, they can make it so that, it's standard practice to anytime there's a new development, a new building going in, that you've got to build it a certain way to make it green. Green New Deal. Refurbish all buildings, retrofit them or rebuild them or whatever for green technology.
Don't think you're all grandfathered into that.
Oh, absolutely not.
Anytime a property changes hands,
yep,
there can be any requirement can be put on that.
Or anytime that you want to, say something is old and you want to tear down a wall and build a new one or add on or
what you
remodel.
Say government, come over here and arrest me. How about that?
Yeah, well, and that you think that it's not true or that it can't happen, but let's pick on St. Louis Park for a moment because I
Yeah.
love doing that. Did you know that, and I know this, and I'm not going to say how, but because I don't want people getting in trouble, but let's say you wanted to just patch up a parking lot in St. Louis Park. That's fine. You want to redo that parking lot and repave it, you've got to allow spots for electric car chargers. And you've got to run electricity, and you have to have certain types of lighting. And so what might cost you, $20,000 to patch or $10,000 to patch or whatever, it'll cost you well over $100,000 to repave that lot because you've got to add all of those things back in, and you can't get around it.
Huh. Wow.
You can't repave your own parking lot on your own property unless you're willing to put in electric car charging units.
Well, I mean, there's such demand for that. Right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
I mean, are we ever going to get off this electric car stuff?
No, not ever.
I mean, as much as I love Elon Musk, okay, believe me, he's being subsidized by the government.
Right, but here's the thing. It's not just him. There are companies, and I'm trying to remember, I should probably try and Google that quick.
I like Elon Musk. He's a cool guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he
He's an
he
innovator.
really believes in what he's doing, you know.
But
He's
he's
like
out in the business world
Yeah.
trying to make a product to sell. I mean, that's very different than, hey, supermarket parking lot, we're going to force you, whether it's ever used or not, or whether you want it or not, for this fictitious product. You know anybody that has an electric car?
No. I don't know anybody.
That's a good point.
So here's some stories. This is from the right-wing conspiratorial website Forbes. Ford Motor vows to sell only electric cars in Europe by 2030. Jaguar to transition to all electric vehicles, Land Rover to go majority electric. GM announcement shakes up U.S. automakers' transition to electric cars. GM will sell only zero-emission vehicles by 2035. You want to hear some more?
Yeah, because they're all lies. They can't do that. They can't do it unless people want to buy them. Nobody wants to buy them.
But remember the story we had, was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
Here's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to get to that point, and they're going to make some excuse to why they're not doing it. We're not there yet. Technology isn't there yet. We can't get the price down. And I mean, there's no way that there's no way in 9 years that entire countries are going to take the largest mode of transportation and just immediately change it. They may set goals. I mean,
Yeah.
Al Gore said the world would end in 2015. I mean, nobody calls him on it. Nobody will remember this in 2030.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is part of, there's some teeth behind this, though, because of the Great Reset. And these companies are involved in the Great Reset. Ford is, GM is, and they are going to be pressured into doing this by the other people in the World Economic Forum. They're signing pacts to get this accomplished, and there's going to be penalties attached to this.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I it's funny how they don't include the United States in that. Yeah.
GM was
Yeah, well, all electric cars by 2030.
2035, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And if you can't buy a gasoline-powered car, what do you do? You know,
you buy used.
Yeah,
I guess you buy used.
I don't know, and I guess we will have to see. You know,
How
what?
about autonomous cars? I mean, that's always been on the horizon. Or,
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know. Well, remember the article from last week where it was, you don't own anything. You don't own cars. You just have a self-driving pod come to pick you up, or you take mass transit, or it.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal of the communists, that
Yeah.
you don't own anything, including your own land or your own money, your own.
Right. Well, that was on the World Economic Forum website.
Right. I mean that was an article written by some knucklehead, but Then I'll tell you what, I don't understand how that's going to work. I don't understand how you go back to rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how they're all supposed to transition. I don't understand how they're supposed to order an autonomous car. I don't understand how how farmers are supposed to transfer livestock.
Plow a field.
I mean, think about it like this. I mean, think about the weather here in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not conducive to an electric anything.
Right.
I mean, and powered on what? I mean, we sit and we talk about, electricity can be. There's a lot of things that can power electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I mean, ultimately, oil is a natural resource produced by Mother Nature.
Yeah.
It's not some evil thing thought up in some evil lab somewhere. It's a natural resource.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm all for anything that can be done in the marketplace.
Right.
But the reality is no one wants to buy this crap.
No, and let's look at what just happened in Texas. I love Texas. However, whoever the idiots are that sat and said, oh, let's go with wind power, and then the cold comes, knocks out all of their wind power. If that's what you got, and all you have are electric cars, and you got no electricity to charge your electric car, how are you getting around?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a great lesson, though, in the shortcomings of some of this stuff, that everybody just celebrates that people can urinate in a certain direction and they can power something. Nobody talks about when the urine freezes. You know what I mean? But I mean, nobody if one electoral grid can knock off an entire area of a state,
yeah,
I mean, that's just.
And now, granted, up north they would take steps to, you can winterize them so they don't ice up and stuff. And Texas didn't do that.
You can. There's a cost. There's a cost to that.
There's a cost to that. But what about something else? What if you're in Tornado Alley? What if they receive hail damage? Solar power. I mean, how much of the solar panels are created by Uyghurs in slave labor camps in China?
Yeah, they all are, and they're all paid for by our government. 2/3 of a solar panel is paid for by tax credits and tax.
So enjoy your solar panel.
So Walmart is out there getting huge tax credits by putting solar. You think they're doing it out of the goodness? No, they're doing it because we're paying for it.
Don't worry, only 3.2 Chinese people died making your solar panels.
Now,
Enjoy.
Again, if solar panels are out in the marketplace and somebody wants to buy them and they're not coerced into doing it by the tax code, that's one thing. I mean, but it's another. And again, building codes are going to dictate this, though, in the future. I mean, the family farm is where I really see an area getting hit hard because they're already underwater. Again, thanks to our government. Because so many of these farm subsidies are going to these large farms. In fact, one year, I tried to look this up, but I can't. It was back in the Bush Jr. years. The largest recipient of federal farm subsidies was in the United States?
I don't know.
Ted Turner.
Really?
Here's a guy who couldn't pound a nail, couldn't milk a cow.
No.
But he can create a holding company or something, and they could buy up a bunch of farms, put them all under, different names, put them all under a conglomerate. Any losses can be bled off on TNT or TBS or, it's just a total scam. And he was the largest recipient of farm subsidies in this country.
Yeah.
Which is just amazing when you think about it. You wonder why the family farmer has so much trouble succeeding. And they have a lot of trouble because they're land rich, not cash rich. Yeah. They have a lot of trouble because it's hard to keep up with weather, with animals and cost of transportation and a changing nation's eating habits and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's hard enough, but then watch people like that get our tax money for nothing. I mean, our own regulations have done so much to destroy farming.
Right. And to take this super local again, People will say, well, they're not going to do that here. The building codes are set by the city council. So many cities have adopted the international codes
from Green Building Council.
Yeah, the International Code Council. And they have books on the 2021 International Plumbing Code, Mechanical Code, building code, residential code, fire code, International Wildland Urban Interface Code, Energy Conservation Code, Fuel Gas Code, Private Sewage Disposal Code, you name it. They have all of these manuals, and so many cities have signed on to it. Rather than coming up with all of their own building regulations, they just say, oh, good enough, here it all is.
Well, in some states it's being forced on cities, though.
Yeah.
Some states have come in and they've made state regulations that, of course, they're the higher form of government, so
right.
You don't have any choices. I mean, you have some wiggle room at the local level, but not enough. And I'm sure, I know Minnesota has adopted what are called LEED standards.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how that, I'm not sure how that applies everywhere. And there are new standards to building new homes and things like that.
Right.
So, there's everything. Here's the thing. These people think of everything.
Yeah.
Windows, doors,
insulation,
welcome mats.
Yep. Roofing,
furnaces, home heating, air conditioners. Underground sprinkler systems. There are rules and all that to any of those things. Your freedom to do water. That's another big thing. You want to destroy rural areas? You tell them no. You can't be on well water. That alone will just destroy them. Because then what are you going to do?
Right.
So, the key is in our local codes and regulations. You can tax them to death. You can regulate them to death. Every time a deed changes hands, you can make new requirements. Every time somebody wants to put a shed up, you can use that to go in and demand that they do this and this and this.
Well, and it went through the county with soil and water conservation managers. They can vote for new setbacks. They can change easements and irrigation ditches, and and all of these places like this. They're getting their marching orders from a bigger group, and we've talked about this before, where you have like the MADO, Minnesota Association of Development Organizations.
Oh, it's MADO.
Well, there's a National Association of Development Organizations. There is a Minnesota Association of Watershed Districts. There's a National Association of Watershed Districts, right? And so these national...
Who thinks this stuff up? That's what I want to know. Who thinks this stuff?
There's more layers.
Let's have a National Watershed Association.
Right. But, they get the rules, and then they disseminate what they want passed down to the state organizations, who then put it into the local organizations, and the local organizations then either implement it themselves or force it on the local governments to implement. And so it's like they don't understand that they're being led by somebody that is either in Washington, D.C., or worse yet, at Davos.
Well, and I'll tell you something else. If they don't do it, you've got government departments that will.
Right.
The Pollution Control Agency, the DNR.
Yep.
They'll just demand regulations. They don't even, some of them don't have to be legislated. They've got authority to do a lot more than people realize.
Oh, yeah.
With the DNR, like I said, that's largely what's going on up in Lake Mille Lacs is the Department of Natural Resources putting restrictions on and all that kind of stuff. And that has, what do you do if you're a citizen there? What do you do? Who do you go to?
Exactly.
You have an unelected, and I guarantee you the career people working there, and a lot of them are good people. A lot of them work at our state parks, and I hate because I love our state parks so much. And the funny thing is Jay, there's no more guy who loves to be outside more than me.
Mm-hmm.
I love our trees, our lakes, our rivers, our state parks. But I'll tell you what, there's a a balance out there between keeping the stuff that makes Minnesota great, and I think that's one of the things it does, and living our lives.
Yeah.
Okay, and we could do both. Okay, we can live our lives and still have clean water and still have our forests and leave people in rural Minnesota alone.
Yeah.
And let them live the life they choose. They choose to live there. That's their business.
Yep. And our water's been cleaner and our air's been cleaner than it's been in long time.
Yeah, I mean, go back to the 50s or go back to the 20s and, watch a train going down the tracks. I mean, with our miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's technology always makes things. Some of that's happened naturally too.
Yeah.
I mean, we've developed better engines. There's a lot that goes into that. I don't want to pollute.
No.
Okay, I don't want to dump stuff in lakes and rivers. I don't want to do that.
No.
But also there's a quality of life that we have, that we can have our quality of life and have all these great things too.
Right.
And we've got to strive for that instead of, saying, oh my goodness, you drive a truck, you're destroying the planet. Come on.
Yeah.
Really?
But, I mean, take a look when you're driving out in the rural areas, how clean they are for the most part. I mean, except for the city people that drive through and throw trash out the window. But then drive to into a city, and how dirty and filthy are some of these cities around here. And you look in the ditches and you look at the intersections, and
it's great
dirty.
It's great being in a city of 1,000 people. They have such a community identity.
Yeah.
And, the small schools and It's almost idyllic. I mean, it's great to be around those, and losing those, and also another thing too is some of the small cities are getting big, thinking that they have to do that to survive, which is another sad kind of byproduct, I think, of some of our own policies, both environmentally and economically.
Well, and that's the thing. They're tying all of this together. They're called ESGs, and I think we mentioned it last week. ESG goals, which are environmental, social, and governmental.
I hate it. I don't.
Yeah.
ESG is now my 3 least favorite letters.
But these are driven by Agenda 2030, and again, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is out there on their websites. If you look at the ESGs are based on sustainable development goals, or SDGs. I know.
Too bad I couldn't have to pass gas right now because I just love to.
But their whole thing is they want to develop or deliver a world where no one is left behind.
I want to deliver a world where everyone has equal opportunity, not equal outcome.
Well, they're looking for equal outcome.
Impossible.
Equity is everywhere. But here are the 17 points of their sustainable development
even Woodrow
goals.
Wilson only had 14.
I know.
Or like the guy from France said, Clemenceau. Geez, only God only had 10.
Yep.
So we got to listen to 17 points. All right.
Oh, they're quick.
Is the League of Nations one of them?
No. No poverty. Zero hunger.
Now, remember, can I just jump in?
Yeah.
Here are the richest people in the world getting together and talking about having, Bill Gates, worth $169 billion, is claiming about inequity.
Yeah.
Listen here, you eugenist. If you want to do something about it, you can.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean set up a foundation and use it as a tax shelter and put your wife in charge of it and give her a $50 million salary. That means actually do something.
Mm-hmm. Stop.
Bastard.
Yeah.
And comb your hair. If you got that much money, can you comb your hair? God, he looks like such a nerd. You got me all riled up again, Jake. Right.
Okay. Point
Dork.
We made it all the way to point 3.
Yeah.
Good.
What were the first two again?
Super attainable goals of no poverty and zero hunger.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, those will be over tomorrow. Good health and well-being.
So if I'm hungry, can I call them up and they'll just feed me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm hungry. Bring me a Big Mac.
Give me that button.
Quality education. They're losing that battle already.
Yeah, no kidding.
Gender equality and clean water and sanitation is number 6. Number 7, affordable and clean energy.
They want number 6. You're going to have to get rid of Taco Bell.
Clean water and sanitation.
Take Booger King with them. I'll tell you what. You know what? Young people in this country, I'll tell you what. Your taste buds are ruined by the time you're like 17.
It's true.
Okay? I just have to say that.
Yeah.
So.
Number 8, decent work and economic growth. Yeah. Number 9.
Decent work.
Yeah. Whatever that means. That's part of the whole $15 minimum wage thing, though, too. You know,
Yeah, that doesn't mean
so
you're doing
everybody
decent
can have
work.
decent work.
Well,
Number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. That's where a lot of your building codes come in.
there's no innovation. You'll be taking marching orders.
Right. Well, innovation will be done by the big companies, and they'll be telling you what to do.
Sure, but they can take a short-term loss. They can.
Absolutely,
You
they
know,
can.
they can-
And they are currently.
Yeah, sure.
They are to be able to weed out who's part of the Great Reset or not.
Yeah.
10, reduced inequalities. Number 11, sustainable cities and communities. 12, oh, were you going to say something?
Well, I'm wondering why is it only cities that they list?
Well, communities.
Well,
You can have a rural community.
go ask somebody out in the rural if they're part of a community. The root word of community? No, I'm kidding.
Yes, it's communism.
Yeah, but that's our name.
Yes.
But we
Well,
don't
that's
mean it that way. We got a new definition.
Yes. 12, responsible consumption and production. No, thank you.
So that means nobody can overconsume or underconsume. You have to
Right.
have equity in consumption.
Yes. That's
Is this the food police and the everybody getting rations, the healthcare police,
Yeah.
We got Michelle Obama in charge of school lunches or something
Yep.
like that.
It's-
Eat your peas, and the peas are all thrown in
It is the one facet of this that makes John Elder sad.
Yeah. Oh, God. I'll tell you what.
Yes.
I'll tell you this much.
Yes.
I just back to a school lunch for a second. A school lunch is probably the worst, most unhealthiest thing you
Yes.
could possibly look. I would put my mom, who died in 1999, I would put her peanut butter and banana sandwich up against anything that I ever had at a school.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what it is. Dessert. I would eat her sandwich above that.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, so just school nutrition. It's
Yeah.
the total contradiction in terms. You play basketball with the chicken.
It's worse than it used to be, I think. I
think
know.
they get the part that went over the fence last. I think that goes to the schools.
It's cow tongue, but if we grind it up, they'll never know.
Yeah, it's not jelly. You're sick.
Pickled pig's feet.
Ugh. God.
Put them in the tacos. Number 13, climate action. Number 14, life below water.
So is that endangered species or something like that?
That's just about anything. That could be your milfoil. That can be your, endangered species. That could be slot sizes on walleye. That could be all sorts of good stuff.
Well, that can cover damn near anything. Though.
Yeah, it's below water. That could be whether you can use gas engines on a boat.
But that's above water.
Part of it.
It's the part that counts is below water.
Yes. So the part that propels you is below water, yes.
Get out those oars.
And if that wasn't enough, life below water, doesn't cover everything. Number
Well,
15.
life above water?
Life on land. Yes. Exactly.
LOL, life on land.
Yes. Number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. That's where you get your critical theory and
Is that
stuff
social
like that.
justice and that kind of stuff?
Yep, absolutely.
So the have-nots can take whatever they want from the have.
Yes. And number 17, partnerships for the goals, which is all of your private public partnerships that we've been talking about here, which is the government colluding with all of these companies to make the rules that you're going to have to live under.
Well, and not to mention, but the big, I think the number one thing with that is the banking, because ultimately 99% of businesses are started with somebody else's money.
Yes.
And if you're not going to play ball on this,
they will not loan you money.
Yeah.
They're already saying that. That's not us just spouting off.
Well, maybe you spouting off, but you've got, banks like Bank of America.
Yeah.
You've got Wells Fargo. You got these other places that are out there, joining these initiatives, even though I don't know what that has to do with banking. I mean, it's basically a warning that if you're not playing ball, you're not eligible for. Because that can't happen. You think about it. You got a small group of banks in this country, Jay, really in the world, that really control the world's monetary policy. It's not controlled by government.
No.
It's controlled by the bankers. And whether money is able to be lent or how it's paid back or how much or for what, so is not in the control of us. It's in the control of just this conglomerate of world bankers.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's very scary. If they stop lending money, or if they're going to get together and say, we're not loaning money to, unless you have this, what are you going to do? I mean, where are you going to go for?
Right. Well, all of these big banks that are part of Davos, part of the World Economic Forum, are coming up with these ESGs. BlackRock, this is via MarketWatch, is the world's largest money manager, and it is huge. And there's a few people that were high up in this company that are now in the Biden administration, so that's nice.
Huh.
But
Build back better.
Yeah, it's funny how so many world leaders are using that same phrase that are part of the Great Reset. Yes, so BlackRock is coming up with their ESGs, and the activists that they're involved with are telling them that they need to, that they're not being forceful enough.
They do want some business, don't they?
Yeah, well, I think they manage so much money. I think they're not too worried about that. Yes. So they're asking companies to disclose business plans that will be compatible with a net zero economy by 2050. A net zero economy. We're not talking about plans for their business. They want to know how these businesses will contribute to a net zero economy by 2050, where a company emits no more carbon than it removes from the atmosphere to help keep global warming under 2 degrees Celsius. And it's part of and there's no quotes.
I thought we were
going
to reverse global warming.
Yeah, I thought so too.
What do you mean keeping it under 2 degrees?
I think it wasn't 2 degrees of warming where the whole Earth bursts into flame and careens into the sun or something like that. It's part of the science-based
Oklahoma
guidelines.
just had their lowest temperature in over 100 years.
Yeah,
last week.
I know.
Sorry, I interrupted.
That's fine. They say it's part of the science-based guidelines and timeline set forth by the Paris Climate Agreement.
Well, what's that got to do with
no science in the Paris Climate Agreement?
No, it's political. What
Yes.
does that have to do with loading money? I mean, what business is it of theirs? I mean, if they got a business plan, they're qualified for a loan. What the hell business is it of theirs?
It's Well, none, except that they hold the money, and Bank America is saying that they may not loan money out to people that do not have a plan to be a part of this as well.
People?
Well, businesses.
Okay.
Okay. Talking about business loans and stuff like that. So if you're in small town America and you're trying to start a business, or big town America, again, that makes it very hard for the entrepreneur, very easy for the big corporation. Again, forcing out, your entrepreneurs, your small businesses in favor of these big old companies that have money to lose on a short-term basis
or they have another company to bleed the losses off.
Right.
They can write it off somewhere else. I mean, they can create a holding company and put it under some umbrella, and they don't feel the losses at all. So, I mean, it is that way, and, I mean, it is totally unfair. It is ridiculous. These people are crooks. They're evil. I can't even say the adjectives I want to say. And there's nothing worse than a banker. I mean, doctors are probably my least favorite people on earth, especially in the last, 11 months or so.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, bankers, boy, they've been on my S list for a long, long, long time. And I mean, where is our government here? I mean, where are our leaders here following the Constitution and getting monetary policy back into the hands of I don't want to say our government because I don't want it there, but I mean, we have no control over monetary policy. Zero. I mean, and states can take the lead. You can charter state banks. You can work around the FDIC if you have the, but there's very few of them there because if you're not FDIC backed, you're not part of the little clique that has the endless pot of money.
Right. You can't, get your Fed money.
Well, there aren't big enough accounts out there to there has to be, the bank has to make money. Okay. If you're going to have a state bank, they have to make money. They have to have clients,
right?
Not just that they loan to, but that they, buy their stocks and their 401ks and their, that's why you have such limited choices when it comes to some of that stuff, because there's only so many people that do it.
Yeah.
Because they all know that they're protected. So, I mean, it's all it's so comprehensive, to everything from what we eat to what we drive to where we work to how we travel to, what we do for recreation. I mean, it is all, there's all these plots out there to change our behavior.
Yes.
And it's scary. And it's just got to be scary for all these local communities. I mean, I just feel for and the small businesses too. I mean, I don't know how small businesses are ever going to survive. I really don't know. I mean, I just wonder in 10 years, are you going to see, and I've wondered this before, and I've been right and wrong, I guess, but I mean, are you going to see a local hardware store? Are you going to see, like I said, a state bank? Are you going to see a local clothes store, a local, grocery store, a small repair shop? I mean, they're already getting squeezed out. And, under this kind of stuff, under all these new rules that could be coming to their buildings, to their land, where does it go? What? And there's no end game. There's no end game. There's no end. Because we all know this won't be enough.
Oh, absolutely not.
It's never enough.
And it's not just loans for your business if you're a local businessman. It's also, you look at shipping, how you get your product. Yeah. Looking at the World Economic Forum's website, there is a podcast. They have an entry, Can the Shipping Industry Clean Up Its Act? It talks about shipping accounts for 2 to 3% of man-made emissions globally, or so they say. So not surprisingly, pressure is building on industry chiefs And the goal has been set to have carbon emissions by 2050. But targets and plans are one thing, execution another. And so they talked to some people about how, especially with shipping, to reduce emissions. Well, obviously that means you've got to get semi-trucks off the road. You can't be shipping things in big boats. I mean, how are you going to do that? You can't have 3D printers on site and everywhere and create your own inventory.
Well, and I mean, there's only so many. If you're going to transport livestock or you kind of need a big plan. I mean, I'm just saying,
But I mean, they talk about that too. That meat is a big problem. Other episodes in this series. So it's a series of podcasts focused on the future of meat, biodiversity conservation, blue finance, and more. So, meat is also on the chopping block. Forgive the pun.
Meat is going to meet its extinction.
Right, which then again goes back and hurts the farmers in rural America.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're talking about a profitable thing. I mean, people love their steak dinner.
Oh, I know.
I mean, I just wonder, Jay, we're community solutions here. So how do we walk this back? I mean, I mentioned chartering state banks. That's kind of a goal that a local community can't do. But obviously, aside from just not implementing this stuff, because here's one problem. One problem that I see is, I think for any long-range thing to happen or not happen, the number one thing it's got to do is be in your comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
And somehow it's got to be written in there that you're not going to have these goals. You're not going to put a sidewalk everywhere. You're not going to put a freaking roundabout in the middle of a highway. You're not, blah, 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 blah. I think cities need to start writing the negative stuff in.
Yeah.
Write the negative in there.
Our Constitution is a charter of negative liberties. It tells the government what they can't do.
Right.
City charters, state constitutions and city charters should be written the same way.
Yeah, government can't do this, can't do that, can't regulate this, can't tell you what to do here and there. Unfortunately, people view the government as the opposite. It's to take from somebody and give to another, or something like that. Very few people view the Constitution the way you and I do. And again, I think that's a byproduct of our education system, which I think sucks. Mm-hmm. So, and just basic civics, which is also,
right,
hasn't been taught right. Probably in 100 years, it probably hasn't been taught right.
Yeah. Well, why don't we go through these here? We got some time. These are the top impacts from the Davos agenda. So these are the things that they talked about that they want to bring back to the places they live and start to figure out how to implement these. And we all know it's going to go local because it always does.
Or whatever they can't get federally or state,
right?
They'll go local, just like
right.
We've seen. Yeah.
Okay. Number one, responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. So they launched, it says here, more than 40 initiatives in response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Never let a crisis go to waste.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. I think when you look at places like Florida, they're doing a good job. Texas is doing a good job. South Dakota doing a good job.
Well, why aren't they the models? Why do we need these morons in Switzerland?
Right.
I mean, we don't need them.
Italy did a great job. Let's let them in on the conversation.
Fine.
Well, I mean that facetiously. I mean they did terrible.
I know. I'm facetiously saying fine.
But
that's like putting Cuomo in charge of. He'll write all 40 of them. There's a guy who ought to be impeached immediately.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, we should be letting cities decide based on, even at a state level, what what Governor Walz has done, I think, is terrible for this state. Places like Lake of the Woods, places like Virginia, Minnesota, places like Wabasha should be making their own rules. And they should be saying, you know what, we don't have a lot of infections, we don't have a lot of visitors, we don't have a lot of whatever. Hey, let's figure out how to keep our businesses open.
Yeah,
let's
what is
figure
it,
out
20 below up in Lake of the Woods every day?
Yeah.
I don't think they have a big problem with...
No.
Yeah.
So
By the way, if you want to fix a COVID pandemic, one of the worst things that we can do is get rid of rural areas.
Yes.
Because if you all congregate in high-density housing and a mass transit and everything these a-holes try and push, that's exactly where the pandemic is being spread.
Yep.
So we should be doing the opposite of anything these idiots say.
Yeah. So
I'm surprised Osterholm isn't their spokesperson.
Well, he could
or
be.
Andy Slavette. Why aren't they their spokesperson?
could be in on it. Yep.
Probably.
Obviously. But you know what? We've got to figure out a different way to do it because what they're doing isn't working. Let's look at number 2, bringing racial justice to the workplace. So the Partnering for Racial Justice and Business initiative brings together 48 companies to set new global standards for racial and ethnic justice in business. The companies represent 13 industries with more than 5.5 million employees worldwide. The initiative will operationalize and coordinate commitments to eradicate racism in the workplace and provide a platform for businesses to collectively advocate for inclusive policy change. So if you run a business and you don't sign on to what did it say? 48 companies decide for everybody else, you're going to be ostracized because you're not playing by the rules.
Would have a blue eagle in their window.
Right.
And I bet these are huge companies with, what did you say, how many million employees?
5.5.
Well, that doesn't sound like much, but let me tell you something. Once X amount of, everybody's going to want to join the club. This is the start.
Yeah. It is. It is the start. But, this is something where, again, you have a very small fraction of huge companies that can afford to take a loss in the short term in order to come up with how they want you to be regulated.
Right. But I'm going to tell you something. You're already seeing that. Look what's going on in Minneapolis. The way they're trying to separate minority-owned businesses from white-owned businesses.
Yeah.
If you're a minority-owned business, you're going to get all these breaks, all these free stuff. If you're a white owner, you're not going to get it. We're already seeing that stuff going on.
Mm-hmm. Here's another one. Fostering a multi-generational inclusive workforce. People live and work
There's some
longer
words
than-
I hate.
Really? So again, 50 global companies representing more than 2 million employees and $1 trillion in annual revenue have come together with the Forum and Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development and the AARP to create Living, Learning, and Earning Longer initiative. So again, you have 50 companies and the AARP that are going to decide for everybody else, here's what you need to do.
You know what? I hate the AARP. They've been sending me stuff for years, and I'm like, look, I ain't that old, first off, and when I am that old, you're the last people on earth I'm going to come to for anything.
Yes.
So go put them in a box, turn them sideways, and throw them off the Brooklyn Bridge.
Right.
Figuratively.
Figuratively.
Well,
Yes.
maybe.
Well, it would be hard to do that to an entire organization physically. So, I mean, if they...
Well, I don't know who could do it except for maybe me.
Okay. Okay, Mark Henry.
The only guy who could beat me in arm wrestling.
Wrestling joke. All right. Improving physical and mental health in cities. So they want everybody in cities, right?
Once again,
But here's what they say. City living can take a toll on people's physical and mental health. Well, then why do you want everybody there?
that's where they can be controlled.
Oh, yeah. Non-communicable diseases account for 71% of all deaths worldwide, and mental health issues affect 1 in 4 people in the world. So they're going to tackle that, and with that, that's where some of
Everybody up.
your gun things are going to come from, because I know they have rattling through the Congress right now. I'm trying to remember which one it is. It's not HR 1. It's HR 125.
Take away people's Second Amendment rights
Yes.
with using mental health as an excuse.
Absolutely.
I mean, just because you have depression because your dog died doesn't mean the Constitution doesn't apply to you.
But now they're talking about having to do interviews and doing interviews with people that have been in your life. And that means a spouse, either current or former. You're going to get a fair shake from a former spouse? No, you're not. You're going to get a fair shake from, like a former boss or whatever. No, you're not. And they're looking for any reason they can to be able to limit firearm possession. And that's going to come out of that. Oh, we need to get you healthy, before you think about owning a firearm.
We need you to accept all 26 genders.
Yes.
Before you can own a firearm.
Yes. Oh, boy. Let's see. Charting a course for cities to reach net zero. So entire cities.
Is that IQs?
Yes, they're already there in Minneapolis. 9 cities.
Minneapolis, they're negative.
Okay, let me read this from the beginning. From clean electrification to efficient buildings and smart infrastructure, a new initiative will help cities chart a course towards a net zero carbon future. So again, cities, it doesn't say what size, but again, you're looking at having to do smart infrastructure and efficient buildings, which is like LEED standards, and clean electrification. So you're looking, again, at anything that's not coal-powered.
And again, you're looking at big cities will do this. Small cities will be mandated to, and they won't be able to.
Right.
I mean, they'll become ghost towns.
And who's deciding this for everybody? 9 cities and more than 70 organizations in 10 different sectors have come together for a multi-year initiative, Net Zero Carbon Cities. Together with a forum, they have created a vision for the future and launched a new framework to help cities rethink urban ecosystems, ensuring they are greener, more efficient, resilient, circular, and equitable. Circular is one of those terms that has been coming up and coming up and coming up, a circular economy where everybody kind of benefits everybody else, yeah.
I don't like that.
Yes.
You could I'll tell you what, I'm going to cut a hole in that circle, and you can...
Yes. Supporting social entrepreneurs fighting COVID-19.
Social entrepreneurs.
Yes. Yes.
Can I ask what's missing here?
Voice of the people.
First Amendment rights.
Yes.
Limited government.
Yes.
9th and 10th Amendments. Pretty much any amendment you can think of.
Working your way around being in a treaty legally.
Yeah, sure. It's another constitutional
You
violation.
have these businesses that are entering into agreeing to do these things.
Like we mentioned before, they're entering into treaties with foreign governments.
But because they're not government, they're not held to, Senate ratification. It's another workaround of our Constitution.
Well, and our government does it, though. The Paris Accords is an illegal...
Right. They write it like it's a treaty, like it's binding, and it cannot be binding.
Even if it's not binding, it is binding, because if you're going to take those things back here and implement any of them,
I know,
at any level, okay, it is a treaty. It's not voluntary if it becomes law.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a total end run around. What was the last treaty we actually approved of?
I don't even know.
What, NAFTA? I don't even think that was considered a treaty.
It's kind of like this. You go to a meeting and you find out that we're going to give you a paid vacation for 5 to Disney World, and
Yeah.
all you got to do is sit through this half-hour meeting. You sign on the dotted line to go to the vacation. Oh, boom! You now own a timeshare, right? But you pretend like you didn't sign a contract and own a timeshare because you don't ever go to the timeshare. But you're still getting the money pulled out of your bank account. So you're still. You've agreed to the contract.
Just enjoy
you signed
Disney
the contract. I'm enjoying Disney World. I'm in Fantasyland. Well, all the whole time, you agreed to this contract. I mean, you didn't just sign up to get the vacation and then you don't get to pay.
Here's my question.
You have to pay.
Why would we join?
You're stuck in a terrible deal.
Why would we join a voluntary agreement if we weren't going to do anything? I mean, it's kind of like.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm buying tickets to a concert, but I have no intention of going. Well, then why did you buy the tickets? I mean, it's like it makes no sense to join something and then not do anything that is in those documents to do.
Right.
So it's just, I mean, it is. Here's the thing. I think you and I might be the only two people pointing this out.
It could
because
be.
Nobody in Washington points it out.
Oh, no.
Nobody in either worthless party. Nobody in the media. Nobody in. The same 5 guests that have been on Meet the Depressed since the 70s. I mean, there's nobody nobody questions. We went through this with Kyoto too. In fact, I think part of Paris came from the Senate rejecting Kyoto.
Yeah.
They learned their lesson.
Right.
They can't risk the people having a voice, so they have to go around it. So, I mean, I think that's a direct result of that. Go back to Agenda 21 and the Rio original Rio agreement back in 1992. That was voluntary, but we never officially did anything, but we're doing it.
Yes,
and
we are.
We've been giving them updates. We participated in Rio 25 and Rio 10 and all those things. So, I mean, it is an end run. At the end of the day, I don't know that it matters because, I mean, government never follows their own rules. So I mean, how many unconstitutional things does government do every 5 seconds?
Yeah.
In the millions. So it's kind of like, it's just one more thing. I think it's just the attitude of too many, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. On the one hand, the task of, I mean, obviously we can't give up. We can never give up. But the task before people and even getting small victories against this avalanche coming at us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so daunting. And they never take a day off. They're always plotting a new thing or so they get paid to do.
Yeah.
They're paid like mercenaries almost.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Well, Jay, I mean, I know that before we get to the sign-off sermon, we do need to tease next week a little bit.
Okay.
Because I've been listening to some previous shows.
Yes.
And what we're going to do next week is share some of we're in year 5. Okay, this is 200 episodes. We don't need a guest or anything. You and I don't need that. We're the stars of the show already. We have planned for everybody kind of a retrospective of the past 4+ years. Funny things we remember from previous shows, great shows that we think you ought to go back and listen to. Some of them I feel like I'm listening for the first time.
Yeah.
Because was that me? Did I actually say that? And funny openings we've done and that kind of thing. It's just a funny, typically I don't like these kind of shows. Like on a TV show, I don't like it when they look back.
So we thought we'd give it to you guys.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought, what a perfect thing, because we'll make it better than that.
Yeah.
We'll make it better.
It'll still be informational, and you'll learn a lot.
Exactly.
Because I think there's very few people who have listened to all 200 or 199 episodes.
And keep in mind, there's subjects we haven't talked about in 2 years.
I know.
Yeah, so
and it'll be a good reminder for us to go back and see where some of these things are at now.
Yeah, and maybe do some follow-up shows. I know that's something that you and I, unfortunately, we keep getting so many things thrown at us that
the world is changing at such a fast pace. It's hard to go back.
Yeah, to go back to part 2 and part 3 of something is not easy. But that's what we've got planned next week for episode 200. Mm-hmm. I never thought we'd get there.
I did.
Oh, damn.
And we're going to see 500 someday.
Are we really? Boy, that's what? That's if we do 52 a year, that's 5 years from now, 6 years from now?
It'll be fine.
Oh, God help us.
It'll be fine.
Well, you got to do something about my long-term contract then. You got to do something about my no-trade clause because I don't want to get traded to, some podcast about pottery or something like that. I mean, whatever.
You'll have to make me a list of where you don't want to go.
That's right. You can't trade me to these podcasts.
Don't worry.
Or you can't trade me for cash considerations and a 7th-round draft pick either.
We'll be talking about the fairly new states of Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. by that time, so it'll be good. Yeah.
Well,
they've already drafted the legislation.
Yeah, I'm pessimistic on that, though, that it'd be added so quickly like that. I don't think so.
Well, we'll
see. But that's just me. I mean, I was wrong once. So
yeah, they have no shame and no filter and no morals. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, if there were a reason to add these,
there are
things that wasn't so political.
It would
be
that's
a lot
all it
different.
Is.
I mean, but
more Democrat votes. That's it. So
yeah, it's bad enough that DC has a seat at all.
Yeah.
Why doesn't DC? I mean. Why doesn't Maryland or something just annex them then?
There's actually a Republican bill to do that.
Yeah, but I mean
to give it to Maryland outside of the federal buildings.
But what's interesting is I remember after Trump won, Democrats were complaining about states, Wyoming and South Dakota have more electoral votes per person than like California does. Well, by putting DC, aren't you just doing what you're whining about?
Right.
First of all, DC already has 3 electoral votes. So, I mean, I know as a state, things become different because you get 2 senators. But,
right.
I mean, but the point being that where would you add those stars on the flag? I want to know where. How would you get 2 more stars in there?
At the bottom of the pole.
Yeah, at the bottom.
On the ground.
It's that brown spot on the corner of this. All right. Jay, once again.
Yes.
Styling and profiling. Limousine riding, jet flying. The women love them, at least the ones over 80. The men want to be him. The king of sting. The pop of popcorn. I have to come up with new ones.
Yeah. A pop of popcorn.
The Roddy of Piper. Once again, Community Solutions presents with the sign-off sermon, Mr. Jason Bradley.
Thank you, Andrew. Well, we're in a whole heap of trouble. You know what? Been doing a little thinking over the last, 24, 48, not quite 48 hours, 36 hours since I found out about the passing of Rush Limbaugh. It's hard when such a powerful voice goes silent. You think about the authority they carry. You think about what they meant to so many people, how they were able to rally people around them, motivate people to step into the limelight and take a shot at greatness. But you know what? I think we can still be okay. You know, it's hard because on one hand, you have somebody that He showed up every day for decades, and he was there. You know, and he was able to talk to us in a way that made sense and helped us to understand the world a little better. And on the other hand, though, sometimes we get dependent on those people. And we become content with listening, but never taking that step into doing. And there's a vacuum there. There is a vacuum where that voice used to be, that has been created by him moving into the next life. Now, who's going to fill that vacuum? Nature abhors a vacuum. That is what, I think that's a scientific saying, Andrew. I'm pretty sure I heard that somewhere. Nature abhors a vacuum. So what's going to fill it? Now, every time that we, in politics, in government, should I say, not politics, in government, in governing, when we don't fill a void, somebody retires or, whatever, a seat is going to be vacant. What moves in to fill that seat, and what impact does that have? Well, that's true anywhere in life. So whether that's in the podcast world, such as what we do, whether that is in the government world and actually putting your butt in a seat to vote yay or nay on the issues of your community, county, state, country, whether that is from just being involved in your church, in your community, and being available. Nature abhors a vacuum. And a vacuum was indeed created just yesterday. So what are you going to do? Are you going to let it remain silent, or are you going to step in and try to do something about it? Because I tell you this, there are people out there right now that want to shut down conservative voices like ours. They want this show to go away. Now, we might not have the reach that, your Glenn Beck and your Sean Hannity have. But you know what? We're also speaking about things that they're not. We have a different bent to our show. And that's not to say anything good or bad about us or them. They do what they do. They're doing what they're called to do, and we're doing what we're called to do. Are you doing what you're called to do? It's that simple. Are you doing what you're called to do? There's a huge void that's been left. And it's up to you to make sure that that void does not get filled with regulations and laws from Washington, D.C. or St. Paul or someone else that is going to put some sort of fairness doctrine or other means of hampering what we do into place. We need you to keep the First Amendment alive. We need you to make sure that we can always have a voice and that we're not silenced because we don't practice equity the way they see it, because we don't believe that man-made global warming is as bad as they say it is, because we don't believe that you beat COVID-19 by sealing yourself into your house and not doing anything for a year, 2 years, 3 years, wearing 5 masks when you go out. We have a different view of the world. But we are not going to have the freedom to be able to live life our way if we don't stand up and do something. We have to open our mouth. We have to be able to say the words that we believe without fear of repercussion, yet knowing full well that repercussion could come at any moment. You have to be fearless. It's not that you can't ever be scared, or, you can have fear, but you have to also have courage. You have to have the courage to say something even when you're afraid. You have to have the courage to say something even when you know that they may come after you. They may get you fired from your job. They may get you your business put in jeopardy of being shut down. They may get you silenced, or they may very well try. But you know what? If you don't speak up, they're going to come for you anyways. It's just going to be a whole lot sooner. Because if you have some intestinal fortitude, they respect that a little bit. They don't like you. And they're going to fight you tooth and nail. But it's the people that roll over and say, oh, I'm just going to be quiet and hope they ignore me. Well, they've already won against you. You're already living a life of slavery because you have become subservient to what they have put in front of you, the demands that they've made. You've agreed. Whether you might not agree in your heart, but your silence speaks volumes. So what are you going to do with this? We have one shot at having a voice. We have one shot at saving this country. We have one shot at standing up, coming together in unity, and saying, no, you're not doing this. Because once they implement it, it's done. So how do you stand against billions of dollars, these companies that have decided that this is what you're going to do, like it or not? We're taking their marching orders from government, creating their own regulations so they can push out the small guys. We have to come together as communities, as counties, as states, as a nation, and we have to say no. We have to join together, and we have to do what it is before us to do. We put our hand to the work ahead of us, and we do it with diligence and with excellence. It's up to you. You can hide and see how that works out for you. It hasn't worked out well in the past for the people who have hid. It's the people that fight. They may die, but look at Braveheart. The end of that movie, he is killed. But what happens? The people that followed him finally got a spine. They went to war with England. They won. They won their independence. You know, and it might not mean your physical life. It could mean your financial life. It could mean your reputation. It could mean any number of things. It might not mean any of the above other than you're going to have to struggle and fight to be able to find that victory. But you know what? At least you're in the fight. At least you're doing what you can. At least you're moving forward. You're marching forward. You're not looking back. And even if you're afraid, you're living every day with courage. Because it's when you step into life every day saying, what you going to throw at me today? I'm going to own you. That is when you make a decision to live life on your terms. Now, I don't say that as a, living life full of pride, living life, from a selfish vantage point. That's not what I'm talking about. Because the greatest leader is the greatest servant. You have to live life with humility. You have to live life with a vantage point of servanthood, serving those around you. But you have to be unrelenting to the evil forces that meet you, the darkness that is just over the horizon. You have to suit yourself up, and you have to be ready to fight. Now, I'm not saying we physically pick up arms. Please hear me, oh media who want to twist these things around. No. It just means that you meet every day head on with courage, and you don't ever back down from what you believe. So who's with me? Let's share this stuff far and wide. Let's make sure everybody is on the same page. Let's unify. Let's come together. As the Beatles sang, come together over me, over us, over this nation. And we can, if we unify, win. I know this and I believe this. Because if I thought it was a lost cause, I'd hang it up and I'd enjoy my last few days, my last few years of relative peace. But I don't believe that. I've got a lot of fight left in me. I know Andrew's got a lot of fight left in him, despite all the joking that we do about retiring away somewhere. And, that's just not our lot right now. So you let us know if there's something we need to talk about that's going on in your area. You're interested in stepping in and doing something, let us help you. Get a hold of us, COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. That is COMMsolutionsMN@gmail.com. And let's get in this thing together. What is that phrase? If we don't hang together, we shall surely hang separately. Well, we love you, Minnesota. But now it's your turn to get to work.
If I get too caught